Retirement is supposed to be a gentle turning of the page, not a door quietly closing behind you. For many people, though, that's exactly how it can feel, especially if you're facing this chapter on your own. Maybe your partner has passed away, maybe a marriage ended, or maybe your kids and grandkids are living states away, busy with lives you're proud of but no longer part of every day. The house that once felt full now echoes. Mornings stretch longer than they used to. Weekends, once noisy and chaotic, are suddenly very, very quiet. In that silence, it's easy to feel like the world has moved on without you. That's why where you live matters far more than just rent prices or tax rates. The right town isn't only affordable, it sees you, welcomes you, and gently pulls you back into the flow of life. In this script, we'll walk through 10 towns across the United States that give single retirees more than just a roof and a budget that works. These are places where a fixed income can go further, where healthcare is accessible, and where community isn't just a buzzword, it's what people actually live every day. Imagine, for a moment, waking up in a place where being alone doesn't automatically mean feeling lonely. That's the experience many single retirees find in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Sitting among tall pine trees and soft, rolling fairways, Pinehurst has a calm, settled feeling to it, like a town built around the idea that life is meant to be enjoyed slowly. The climate is kind to aging joints, winters are mild enough that you won't be snowed in for weeks at a time, and summers are warm without being brutally hot. It's the kind of weather that makes it easy to go for a morning walk, join a neighbor for a round of golf, or simply sit on a bench and read beneath the trees. What makes Pinehurst especially comforting for single retirees is the age mix. Roughly a third of the population is 65 or older. That means you're not an outlier here. You're part of the norm. People in the grocery store move at your pace, businesses are used to working with Medicare, and local clubs and activities are designed with seniors in mind. Living costs are below the national average, so a typical Social Security check can cover rent, groceries, utilities, and still leave enough for a treat now and then. One-bedroom apartments are generally within reach for a fixed income, and weekly grocery bills don't force you to choose between fresh produce and prescriptions. Healthcare is anchored by a respected regional hospital, so you're not stuck driving hours for a routine checkup. Pinehurst does have limits. It's not a big city hub with malls, concert halls, or trendy restaurants on every corner. For specialist medical care or big box shopping, you'll likely head to nearby towns like Southern Pines or Raleigh. But for many single retirees, that's the trade-off they're happy to make: less noise, less stress, and a community where people nod hello on the sidewalk and remember your name at the senior center. Now travel mentally to a quiet morning in the Midwest, church bells in the distance, maple trees lining the streets, a small diner where coffee still costs less than a fancy bottled water. That's the rhythm of Tiffin, Ohio, a town that seems almost purpose-built to prove that comfort doesn't have to be expensive. With a population of around 17,000, Tiffin is big enough that you don't feel cut off, but small enough that you won't get lost in the crowd. Winters bring snow, but they're manageable rather than brutal, and the rest of the year unfolds in gentle seasons: spring flowers, summer barbecues, and fall leaves crunching under your shoes. For single retirees trying to stretch every dollar, Tiffin's cost of living is one of its greatest strengths. Average rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment can be dramatically lower than in many larger cities, often in the mid-hundreds rather than thousands. Weekly groceries at familiar chains like Walmart or Kroger come in at a level where a $1,800 to $2,000 monthly Social Security benefit doesn't just scrape by, it actually supports a simple, steady life without needing your children to fill the gaps. The local hospital covers the basics reliably, and there are Medicare Advantage options, physical therapy, and home health services for those who need extra support. Some non-profit groups even step in to provide transportation to medical appointments for older residents who no longer drive, quietly solving one of the biggest fears single retirees face. Tiffin isn't trying to be a buzzing metropolis. Entertainment is modest: a small movie theater, a library, church events, and the activities at the county senior center, gentle exercise, crafts, cards, community lunches. If you're looking for upscale shopping districts or trendy nightlife, you'll be disappointed. But if your idea of a good day is running your errands without stress, knowing someone will say hello by name, and ending the afternoon with coffee and conversation instead of silence, Tiffin is the kind of place that begins to feel like home very quickly. Head south again, this time to the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and you'll find a different kind of small-town comfort in Tryon, North Carolina. From the outside, Tryon is just a little dot on the map, roughly 1,500 residents, a tiny main street, and mountains rising gently in the background. But when you arrive, something else emerges, a legacy of creativity and culture that's unusual for such a small place. For much of the 20th century, Tryon attracted artists, writers, dancers, and musicians, and that artistic spirit is still visible today in the galleries, small theaters, and cozy cafes sprinkled through town. For a single retiree, that can make all the difference. You're not just moving to a quiet place, you're stepping into a community that values expression and story. The climate is kind to older adults, winters are cooler but not punishing, summers are warm but tempered by elevation, and fall is the kind of season that makes you want to be outdoors every day. Living costs are moderate, not rock-bottom cheap but far from big city prices. One-bedroom rents are generally manageable for someone living on a fixed income, especially if you're used to large metropolitan prices. Groceries might cost a little more than the rock-bottom Midwestern towns, but they're still well within reach for a careful budget. Healthcare is backed by a nearby hospital that offers modern care, Medicare coverage, and in-home support options. The county even operates senior transportation, making it easier to get to appointments without hauling yourself onto a highway. But what truly sets Tryon apart is its social fabric. The senior center isn't just a building, it's a gathering place, yoga classes, art workshops, dances, shared breakfasts, and book clubs. You don't have to be the type of person who walks into a room and commands attention. Here, simply showing up is enough. People will eventually learn your name, ask where you're from, and start saving you a seat. The flip side is that Tryon is very small. If you thrive on constant motion, big shopping centers, or a revolving door of new faces, you might find the winters especially quiet when tourism dips. But for those who have felt lost, overlooked, or overshadowed in large cities, Tryon offers something different, the experience of being noticed again. In Corning, Iowa, the idea of "no one eats lunch alone" is less a slogan and more a way of life. This tiny town, also with a population hovering around 1,500, sits among gently rolling fields and big open skies. From the outside, you might only see rows of corn and a couple of modest streets, but for single retirees who are tired of feeling invisible, Corning's scale becomes its strength. You don't have to be loud to be seen here. Simply showing up at the senior center or the local cafe is enough for people to remember you and make sure you're included. Winters are cold, yes, but not as punishing as the far northern states, and summers bring sunshine perfect for gardening, walking, or simply sitting on a porch with a cold drink and watching the world go by at a slow, reassuring pace. The cost of living is one of the biggest reasons retirees consider Corning. Monthly rent for a small one-bedroom apartment can be surprisingly low, often just a fraction of what you'd pay in a larger city. Groceries from local markets and small stores tend to be affordable, keeping weekly food bills within a range that even a modest Social Security payment can comfortably handle. That means you're not constantly forced into difficult trade-offs, heating or medicine, fresh food or a trip to the doctor. Healthcare is handled by a local clinic linked into a broader county health system, offering basic care, Medicare options, and even patient shuttles to appointments. You're not wandering through a maze of parking garages and endless hospital corridors. Everything is scaled down to a human level. Social life is modest but genuine, weekly fitness classes tailored for older bodies, knitting or craft circles, card games, farmers markets that double as neighborhood gatherings. The downside is clear: if you want big concerts, art museums, or specialized doctors right on your doorstep, Corning won't provide that. You'll drive, sometimes an hour or more, for certain services or bigger shopping trips. But if your deepest need right now is simply to know you'll be missed if you're not at lunch on Tuesday, Corning quietly offers that reassurance every week. Further east along the Ohio River, in Mingo Junction, Ohio, you find a different story, a town that knows what it means to rebuild. Once a bustling industrial hub anchored by steel and factories, Mingo Junction has watched smokestacks go quiet and jobs shift elsewhere. But out of that past has grown something new, a quieter, simpler place where people still look out for each other. For single retirees who find themselves alone not by choice but through divorce, widowhood, or distance from their kids, that sense of shared history can feel comforting. The town has fewer than 3,000 residents, and the atmosphere is understated: cool air most of the year, light snow in winter, tree-lined streets, older brick homes that whisper stories of earlier decades. What makes Mingo Junction appealing on a practical level is its affordability. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment can be very low by national standards, and weekly groceries at local chains often stay within a tight budget, giving retirees the ability to live on less than $2,000 a month without constant anxiety. A major health system in a neighboring city provides access to full hospital care, regular checkups, chronic disease management, lab work, and more, and there are programs to help seniors get to and from appointments. Community life is steady and grounded. Churches host free or low-cost meals, holiday events, and support groups. Senior centers keep a calendar of small but meaningful activities: bingo, potlucks, fitness classes, coffee hours. You're unlikely to find gourmet restaurants or luxury shops here, and you won't mistake Mingo Junction for a tourist destination. But you may find something more valuable: people who know what it means to start over and who quietly make room for you as you do the same. Travel into the Appalachian foothills and you arrive in Buckhannon, West Virginia, a small town that feels like a movie set built around the idea of cozy Main Street America. With around 5,000 residents, Buckhannon offers something many single retirees crave: the chance to live in a place where you don't have to fight to be noticed. Brick buildings line the central streets, local cafes serve simple meals and familiar coffee, and independent bookstores and shops still survive alongside modern conveniences. The seasons here are distinct: lush green summers, glowing red and gold autumns, soft snow in winter, but not so extreme that life shuts down. One-bedroom rents are typically modest, and weekly grocery costs stay within what most Social Security budgets can handle. You're likely to find what you need at a combination of local stores and regional chains without constantly feeling squeezed. Healthcare is anchored by a local hospital that offers inpatient and outpatient services, accepts Medicare, and recognizes the needs of an aging population. There are senior transport services to make sure you can actually get to your appointments without always depending on family or neighbors. The town's senior centers are active, hosting exercise classes, book clubs, music nights, and more. You can easily build a weekly routine: Monday exercise, Wednesday lunch, Friday music night, that gently fills your calendar and eases the empty spaces that loneliness likes to sneak into. Buckhannon doesn't have big malls or huge entertainment complexes. Nightlife is more likely to mean a community theater performance or a local band at a festival than a sleek urban bar. But if you've spent enough of your life rushing, commuting, or dealing with crowded streets and impatient drivers, this slower, more human-scale existence might feel like a long overdue exhale. From the mountains, let's return to the Midwest, this time to Orange City, Iowa, a town where cultural heritage and community aren't just preserved, they're celebrated. With just over 6,000 residents, Orange City is known as the Dutch heart of America, and that identity is visible everywhere: gabled roofs, neat streets, traditional bakeries, and a famous tulip festival that fills the town with color and visitors every spring. For a single retiree, the holidays and special seasons can be the hardest times to be alone. Everyone else seems to have a full table and a full house. Orange City gently counters that by offering year-round opportunities to be part of something. Festivals, community concerts, church events, cooking classes, book circles, and casual coffee meetups give you reasons to get out of the house, even on days when you're tempted to stay in and let the hours blow together. From a practical standpoint, the cost of living remains one of its strongest selling points. Rents for a modest one-bedroom place are typically well below big city averages, and weekly groceries at local markets and supermarkets can be kept at a level that works for those living on Social Security or a small pension. Healthcare is handled by a modern regional medical system that accepts Medicare and even offers transportation for older adults who no longer drive. That last point is critical, because no matter how good the doctors are, access doesn't mean much if you can't get to them. In Orange City, that barrier is thoughtfully addressed. It's not a place of mega malls, luxury boutiques, or flashy nightlife. It's traditional, slower, and anchored in faith, routine, and shared history. That won't appeal to everyone. But if you've ever wished for a town where someone notices when you're missing from the weekly coffee group, this might be exactly the sort of environment you've been looking for. Not far away, Decorah, Iowa, adds another flavor to the small town retirement experience. Decorah is slightly larger, with around 7,500 residents, and it blends natural beauty with a subtle artistic and academic energy. Tree-lined streets, rolling hills, and the scenic Upper Iowa River create a landscape that quietly invites you outside, morning walks along the water, afternoon bike rides, or simply sitting on a bench watching the seasons change. It's not a booming city, but it has enough going on that you won't feel stuck. For retirees, the cost of living is still manageable. One-bedroom rentals fall in a range that fits comfortably within many fixed-income budgets, and weekly groceries at markets and larger stores line up with what you'd expect in a reasonable small town. Healthcare is one of Decorah's standout strengths. A respected regional medical center offers geriatric care, rehab services, home health programs, and broad Medicare support. Importantly, there are transportation options for seniors, ensuring that losing your driver's license doesn't mean losing your independence. Socially, Decorah offers more than you might expect from a town its size: community choirs, art exhibits, cultural festivals, educational talks, and a variety of clubs and groups that are happy to welcome new faces. It's not a place for designer malls or gourmet dining on every corner, but it is a place where people greet you on the sidewalk, where the barista might remember your regular order, and where neighbors keep an eye out without being intrusive. For a single retiree, that combination of nature, culture, and practical support can quietly restore a sense of purpose. Travel down to the heart of Kansas and you'll find Lindsborg, often called Little Sweden, USA, a town that proves you don't need a huge population to have a rich cultural life. With about 3,500 residents, Lindsborg wraps its Swedish heritage around everyday life: red-painted houses, folk art, traditional festivals like Midsummer and Lucia, and a steady calendar of local performances and events. For a retiree who has always loved tradition, music, or crafts, this place can feel like stepping into a living storybook. The pace of life is slow but not stagnant. People take their time, but they're not stuck in the past, they simply see value in holding on to customs that bring neighbors together. Rents for modest one-bedroom units are generally affordable for someone on a fixed income, and weekly groceries at local stores typically fit within a careful budget. The local community hospital provides a backbone of healthcare services, routine care, physical therapy, and Medicare-covered support programs designed to help seniors live independently for as long as possible. There are trade-offs, of course. Lindsborg does not come with sprawling malls, high-end shopping, or all the amenities of a major city. For some specialized care or more extensive shopping, you may need to drive 20 or 30 minutes to a larger nearby town. But in return, you get something that can't be priced: a community that knows your name, invites you to festivals, asks you to share your stories, and treats you not as someone at the edge of life, but as a vital part of the town's culture and memory. Finally, we travel west to California, but not to the crowded coasts or dense cities. Instead, we end in Ballard, a tiny town in Santa Barbara County that feels like it was painted into existence. With roughly 500 residents, Ballard is one of the smallest places on this list, and that alone gives it a particular kind of intimacy. Set among vineyards, gentle hills, and winding roads, it carries a soft, sun-washed beauty that many people only see in postcards or vacation photos. The Mediterranean climate means mild sunshine most of the year, cool but rarely harsh winters, and air that invites you outside rather than forcing you to hide inside from extreme cold or heat. For a single retiree, Ballard offers something particularly rare: the quiet of true small-town life combined with the resources of a broader region nearby. While California is famously expensive, Ballard's living costs can be more manageable than major coastal cities. Rent for a small home or apartment might still sit higher than Midwestern towns, but compared to San Francisco or Los Angeles, it's a calmer, more attainable middle ground for someone with a solid but fixed retirement income. Weekly groceries from nearby markets come in at a level that still fits within a carefully managed budget. Healthcare access comes via a nearby regional hospital and health system that provide quality care, Medicare support, and transportation for older adults who can't or don't want to drive. Community life here isn't about malls and movie multiplexes. It's about local wine tastings, small art classes, farmers markets, tiny concerts, and familiar faces at the same shops week after week. You won't remain anonymous for long unless you want to. People notice when you're new, they remember when you come back, and in time they begin to expect you. The trade-off is clear: if you're deeply attached to big city convenience, Ballard may feel too quiet, too small, and too remote. But if what your heart is asking for at this stage is stillness, beauty, and the feeling of being gently known, Ballard offers that in a way few places can. Growing older doesn't have to mean fading into the background. It can be a beginning, not just an ending, a chance to step away from the noise, let go of constant pressure, and ask yourself what kind of days you want to wake up to. For single retirees especially, the difference between a lonely retirement and a fulfilling one often comes down to three things: whether you can afford to live without constant financial fear, whether you can access healthcare without jumping through impossible hoops, and whether there are people around you who will notice if you don't show up for a few days. The towns in this script, Pinehurst, Tiffin, Tryon, Corning, Mingo Junction, Buckhannon, Orange City, Decorah, Lindsborg, and Ballard, are not perfect utopias. Each has trade-offs, limitations, and quirks. None of them can replace your family or erase the losses you've endured. But each one offers its own version of what so many single retirees are really looking for: a manageable cost of living, a reliable healthcare safety net, and a community that gently, consistently reminds you that you still belong. Wherever you choose to spend your retirement years, those are the questions worth asking. Not just, can I afford it, but, will I be seen here? Will I be safe? Will I be welcome? When you find a place that can answer yes to those questions, even softly, that's not just a destination. That's home.